Let's start our today's Abhidhamma study, paying homage to the Buddha, reciting Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Okay, welcome to Abhidhamma class for the second stage of the basis level, Abhidhamma Sangha study. We have finished within the 30 lessons, and we have studied 3 chapters of Abhidhamma Sangha. That is for level 1. And now we're going to start the chapter 4 for level 2. And in this level 2, 3 chapters will be included. The chapter 4 of the compendiums of cognitive process, and chapter 5, the compendiums of process-free, Vitimutta, and compendium of materiality, Rupa. So let's start our lesson 2, lesson 31 for the level 2. Okay, before we continue our study, and we have to think about what we have studied in the 3 chapters of Abhidhamma Sangha, in Chitta chapter, Chittasika chapter, and Pakinaka chapter. Chitta chapter mentioned the classification of consciousness from different ways. And Chittasika chapter makes the connection, the Chitta and Chittasika together. Then in the Pakinaka chapter, the consciousness and mental factors are classified in 6 sections: Vedana, Hetu, etc. Now we're going to continue about the cognitive process, Chitta Vitti. It will mention the process of the consciousness, but actually, when the process of consciousness is mentioned, the process of mental factor also already finished, because they always arise together. They never arise separately. When consciousness arises, the mental factor accompany. So, although the cognitive process, Chitta Vitti, is mentioned, we can understand all the mental factors are arising at every moment of the consciousness. So there's no any separate process for Chittasika. So when we see, as mentioned in the chapter 2, when consciousness arises, the associated mental factor arise together. So now the chapter 4 is named as the Vitti Sangha in Pali. So Vitti is a street or a road. This is the common translation to the word Vitti. But here, in this case, this will explain about the process of mentality leading by the consciousness. The process of mentality is called the Chitta Vitti. Chitta Vitti. So the Chitta in the process, they arise in the process, and whenever they arise, they cognize an object. There's no consciousness which does not cognize any object. It means every consciousness cognizes an object. So when the consciousness arises, they arise cognizing an object. And as mentioned in the chapter 3, so they use the doors. They use the doors. So sometimes they use their, when they arise using the doors, physical door or things, 5 things door, or sometimes they use the mind door. When we say the door-free consciousness, we recognize them at the precise moment. They are not using the door because the types of the consciousness of this door-free consciousness are similar to the mind door itself. That's why they are not using any door. But still, that is the process of mentality. So now, before we study about the process free, and we will study about the cognitive process. So when the consciousness arises as a cognitive process, in the cognitive process, use any doors or 5 sense door or mind door. And the consciousness never arises itself. It arises in association with the mental factors, with the associated mental factors. So whenever the consciousness arises, we can understand the group of mentality is arising. So consciousness with associated mental factor. Then when they arise, they are not arising around here and there. They are arising in the order. So leading one to another. When one arises at that moment, the only group of mentality, that only group of mentality arises. Then that group finish, that group disappear. Then another group of mentality follow. In this way, they are arising in the order. They never arise in one process. They arise arise two groups together. So they are arising in the very systematic order. So this is called the Citta Niyamas, the first order of consciousness. So nobody is arranging, nobody is managing for that. That is due to the law of the consciousness, Citta Niyama. Okay, so in the Vitisangaha, there mentioned the 6 in Pali. It is called the Chachaka. So 6 group of 6 types. So 1, 2, 3, the 6 base, Chawatuni, already studied in the chapter 3. And also second, 6 doors, Chatwarani, and 6 objects, Chataramanani. We already studied them. But here I mention again. And number 4, 6 types of consciousness. This also we study in the chapter 1, but the classification will come, the specific classification to make the proper way of classification with the others. This becomes 6 process. So 6 process, we have introduced this 6 process several times in previous lessons. So then 6 presentation of object. So how the object come into the mind. These are this explanation of the 6 senses. Okay, so in the chapter 4, we will study about them. So as we have studied the other classification in the chapter 3, we are not going to repeat it. So we will study about the process directly. So chat wichio. So as you know, the cognitive process comes through the door. So according to the door, they are classified in chaku dwara wichi, the process connected with the eye door, and sota dwara wichi with ear door. So just that the word dwara is used here, so physical door will change one after another. So kana dwara with the nose door, and jinwa dwara wichi. So here the process connected with the tongue door, and kaya dwara wichi, the body door, and the last one is mano dwara wichi, the process connected with the mind door. So 5 physical door and mind door already know. So we can classify the cognitive process roughly, so pancha dwara wichi and mano dwara wichi, according to the given the name in connection with the door. So here in this case, the name of process are given in connection with the doors. So we can classify 5 door process and mind door process. And another classification, another name given to the process related to the viññāna consciousness. So we need to study the 6 types of consciousness. Chaku viññāna, we already know, sota, kana, jinwa, kaya. So 5 consciousness related to the sense door, and then 1 consciousness related to the mind door. And so we have studied in the previous lesson, so 7 consciousness elements, as mentioned in the chapter 7. In chapter 7, there are 18 elements mentioned to classify the consciousness, mental factors, and materiality. So there we have taken out the elements, 7 elements related to the consciousness. So according to the classification of elements, the consciousness is classified into 7 groups, 7 types. So chaku viññāna dhatu, here the word dhatu is element. So as performing the function of seeing, the eye consciousness arises, that is called the chaku viññāna dhatu. So in this way, 7 elements are classified: sota viññāna, kana viññāna, jinwa viññāna, kaya viññāna, performing the different function. Then the last 2, mano dhatu and mano viññāna dhatu. So as we have studied, the mano dhatu just arise in the 5 door process. As the mano dhatu, the consciousness of mind elements, the pancha dwara vajana, 5 door avattin, so it related to the 5 door consciousness, 5 door consciousness, and samprechana 2, receiving consciousness. So here, the 6th one, mind element, does not have the specific process. They are just the mind movement consisting of the 5 door process. Then the last one, mano viññāna dhatu. That is why, although according to the classification of elements, the consciousness is divided into 7. But the classification of the viññāna, in the process, according to the process, it just becomes the 6 types of process. So let's see the essential condition of the each consciousness. We already studied this, and so let's review again. So unconsciousness based on the sensitivity, insensitivity, and the object and light attention, because these essential conditions are very important to decide the process, types of the process. So how they can arise, the unconsciousness arise depends on the four conditions. So the last condition of attention always consists of every process, every type of consciousness. So it must the most importance. But by the absence of the other condition, also the consciousness cannot arise. So number one, as you see, the pasada, the sensitivity. So eye, ear, nose depends on the consciousness, depends on the sensitivity. That sensitivity is regarded as a door, and also regarded as a base. Then, so the unconsciousness arises in our internal material process. Continuously, it is arising, mostly arising in our mind if we open our eye. And if there is no visible object, the unconsciousness cannot arise. Then, although the eye sensitivity and visible objects come into the present, if there is no light, we cannot see. Okay, the other condition, eye sensitivity, light, and attention are present. But if the visible form is already gone, already disappear, we cannot see. That is why in the chapter 3, we already studied the object of unconsciousness is the present visible form. Present visible form. So here, the visible form must be present. So when these two are, both of them, the pasada, insensitivity, and objects are the materialities. So two materiality, by the support of the other condition, cause the consciousness to arise. Then the consciousness has very short lifespan, and two materiality, they have the longer lifespan. So when they come to arise, to the present moment arise, insensitivity in our internal process of materiality. And visible object, maybe internal or external, any visible object come to appear in the present moment. Coming together, two of the materialities in the present moment, and they strike. So they strike mean the object strike to the sensitivity, because the sensitivity has the nature to capture that visible object. So the object striking toward the sensitivity cause the unconsciousness to arise. If it receives the support of the light and attention, other condition, light and attention. So when the visual form come to appear, striking toward the eye sensitivity, our eye, by the support of light and attention, the unconsciousness arise. So in this way, we can understand the every consciousness and their essential condition, how related, how they give rise. So the second one, the ear sensitivity present in our internal process, and when sound appear, any sound appear, and then striking toward the sensitivity by the support of the space and attention, the ear consciousness arise. So in thought types of consciousness, nose consciousness by the support of air element, Vayodhatu. Then the different types of consciousness arise in this way. So this space and this object we already studied in the chapter 3. We don't need to repeat it. Then the fourth one, so sensitivity and taste. The object is taste. And by the support of water element, time consciousness arise. Then body sensitivity struck by the tangible object and art element by the support of art element. So the art element is very important, the essential qualification to give rise to the body consciousness. And for the mind consciousness, the heart base. So this is general description. Sometimes at the immaterial sphere, even the heart base is absent. So mind, object, and bhavanga. Attention, by the three essential conditions, the mind can arise in this immaterial sphere. But in other plane of existence, there we can find the both materialities and mentality. The heart base is essential condition to arise the mind consciousness. So here mind consciousness 76. and the other except the Dvipanja Vijnana. Okay, so let's continue. The name of the 6 cognitive process. Here, before that, we give the name of the cognitive process due to the doors, according to the doors. Here, the name of consciousness, the process of consciousness can be named according to the consciousness, types of the consciousness. So in connection with the types of the consciousness, the name change. We can call Chakku Vijnana Vichi, the process connected with the eye consciousness. So it is same as the Chakku Dvara Vichi. The eye consciousness arises through the eye doors. That is why we can give one process 2 names. So according to the door, we call the Chakku Dvara Vichi. According to the consciousness, we call the Chakku Vijnana Vichi. That is the same process. Then in the same way, Sota Vijnana Vichi, Gana Vijnana Vichi, Jiva Vijnana Vichi, and Kaya Vijnana Vichi. Then the last one, Mano Vijnana Vichi. So according to this classification, we can call the Pancha Vijnana Vichi, the process of 5-door consciousness, or Mano Vijnana Vichi, the process of mind consciousness. Now, this is the easy parts. And let's continue to understand the process. The ancient scholars, they give these similes, or the simile of mango is mentioned in the Athasalini to understand the process of cognitive process, how the consciousness arises in the process of mentality. So here in this simile, a man is sleeping at the foot of the mango tree. At that time, a ripened mango falling from its stalk and grazing his ear. So he hear a voice, and awakened by the sound. Then the man opened his eye and looks the mango. So he looks the mango and stretches out his hand and take it. So he take it, he take the mango and then he squeeze it. Then smell it. So whether it is good or bad, and eat it and swallow them. Then he goes back to sleep again. This is the simile, but you know, in real life, the man can do the other things, but they are not related to our process of cognitive mentalities. So only these events are similar to the process of mentality. So the Atasalini mentioned in this way. This is the simile of the mango. Then in this process, each consciousness come into being in accordance with the lawful orders. So nobody is managing. There's no self. If we understand about the cognitive process in our experience, and we can identify this, in every moment, the process is their mentalities are arising according to their law, according to their fixed order. So nothing is managing. Okay, here in this process, the man sleeping under the tree. So this is compared to the Bhavanga is occurring. As we have studied, if there's no specific cognitive process to aware the objects, the new object, the mind continue as a part of the Bhavanga. That types of consciousness is called the Bhavanga process. It is running all the time except the cognitive process arise. And so it is sleeping. So sleeping, really at the moment of sleeping also the Bhavanga process arising. If you are sleeping deeply and Bhavanga process arising continuously, then the mango falling from the stalk and grazing his ear like this. So the objects here not only to the ear, to the sense organs, different organ, any object appear and strike to the organs, 6 organs. This is referring to the 5-door process. So 5 sense organ. Any of the 5 sense object arise and strike on the sense organ, respective sense organ. So the awakened by the sound is similar to the arising of the 5-door adverting consciousness. So after cutting off the Bhavanga, the first moment of cognitive process, so the 5-door adverting consciousness arise toward that object. So similar to the man is awakened. Then the man opened his eye and looked at the mango. So eye consciousness arise, perform the function of seeing. So see the object. This is eye consciousness. At the time when the sound strike on the ear sense organ. So here the ear consciousness arise, performing the function of hearing, etc. Then similar to the stretching of his hand and take the mango, the receiving consciousness arise and receive the object. Then similar to the man squeeze the mango, the investigating consciousness arise and investigate the object. And here squeeze whether it is ready to eat or not, like this. And like the investigating. And smelling, so determining consciousness arise and determine the object. Then like eating, the consciousness of jhana arise and experience the flavor of the object. So this is the very moment to experience, to to experience the objects, the taste of the object. Then, similar to the man swallow the mango, so registration consciousness arise and follow to the jhana. So eat and swallow, so the jhana and registration. Then, like the man go back to sleep, so after the registration, the process back into the bhavanga again, until the other object does not strike to the sense organ to give rise another cognitive process. So this is the simile given by the Athasalini to mention about the process, 5-door process. Okay, in this process, you see the object and sense organ, they appear and the object strike to the sense organ. So as I said, the objects is materiality in the 5-door process, and sense organs are also materiality. And they coming together at the present moment, they give rise the mental process in connection with the other conditions. So in order to understand how they arise and how they can be conditioned of the cognitive process, we need to accumulate some more information. There's the lifespan of nama and rupa. So, okay, in the mental process, how long their duration, the mind movement, if we talk about the bhavanga, past bhavanga, etc., and advanced consciousness, unconsciousness, etc., whenever we count the moment, a mind movement consists of any of the one types of consciousness, any types of consciousness, and their respective associated mental factor, so that they appear in the groove. And the mind movement have the three sub-movement. We can divide it into three, and arising, upada, present, titi, and dissolution, bhanga. So there are some arguments about the possibility of the present moment. Some reject the present moment of the mentalities. So arising and dissolution. Arise, come to appear, and vanish, disappear. So because their lifespan is very short, although we classify into three phases, upada, titi, bhanga, that is very short moment. So even the mind movement is very short. In one time of blinking, it can arise the billions of times. So they have the very short moment. But although they are arising in a short time, we can divide them, each of them, to the three sub-moments. So arising, present, and dissolution. Okay, so not only the consciousness, the mental factors arising in the same group, they have the same lifespan. They have the same duration. So we can understand that the mentality in the group, they have the same lifespan of the three sub-movements. Okay, so what is the difference between their mentality and materiality? So mentality, or the mentality, they have the duration of only three sub-moments. So for the materialities, so they have the 17 mind movements, the duration of 17 mind movements. It means the materiality have the 17 times longer lifespan than the mentality, we can say roughly in this way. Then, so if we multiply the 70 mind moment, we get the 51 sub moment. So when the mentality have the 3 sub moment as their lifespan, the materiality, they have the 51 sub moments. Then here, the materiality does not include all 28, and we will see what are the exceptions. Okay, so if we divide it according to the sub moment, so arising of the materiality, 1 sub moment, and dissolution of materiality, another sub moment. So if we substitute these two, the present moment of materiality can be understood at 49 sub moment. So in this way, we can regard as the duration of materialities and according to their pace. So here, arising needs only 1 sub moment, and dissolution also only 1 sub moment, the last moment. And between these two, the remaining 49 sub moment are the duration of the present moment of materiality. Okay, now we see the lifespan of both mentality and materiality. Then here, materiality does not include all 28. So it just refers to the 22 because the other two groups have the different lifespan. So except the 2 intimation, so bodily intimation and verbal intimation, they have these 2 materiality have the same lifespan with the mind moments. So they just have the only 3 sub moments, and the other 4 material characteristics, they are called the Upada has 2 and Bangas 1 and Titi 1. So they have this different lifespan of the lifespan with the 22. So here usually refers to the 22 materialities because the others cannot appear in the present as a present of the 5 sing-store organs. So we will focus on the duration of the 22 materiality. Those have the 17 mind moments. Okay, so recognition the object through the 5 dogs. So this mentioned by the Lerisiaro, our great scholar of Lerisiaro mentioned that the recognition of the object, when the consciousness arises in the order, taking the cognizing any object. So, but in the 5-door process, when the process of Ein-door or the unconsciousness, led by the unconsciousness, we understand the unconsciousness see because it performs the function of seeing. When the unconsciousness arises, we can see. This is the generally understanding. But actually, the recognition of the object does not accomplish in a bare 5-door process itself. So when we hear also the same. So let's see about the Ein process first. Coming together at the present moment, at the same time, the Ein sensitivity and visual form by the support of light and with the presence of the attention. So Ein door process, or the process of Ein consciousness arise. There, the unconsciousness performs the function of seeing. So we see the visual form. But that is just seeing. But to recognize something, For example, if we are looking at the saccharine, and then we see the saccharine, but we recognize in the mind, recognition, what is that appear in the mind? It has this slightly different process. So seeing is coming towards them due to the condition of the object and sensitivity and light and attention arise, the seeing. But in order to recognize what we see, we need the other process. The indoor process alone is not enough to accomplish that process, that recognition, to accomplish the recognition. So needs another process. So they are called the consequent process. So the example is given, an indoor process with the consequent process can complete. So without the consequent process, we just see, but we cannot recognize the objects properly. Okay, so what are the consequent processes? Let's see, the first one is the conformational mind-door process that is called the Tadanovataka Manodara Viti. So now you see the difference. At the beginning, the visible form come into the mind, come to strike through the visible door, through the physical door, indoors. And then after the indoor process, the mind-door process arises, Manodara. So that also continue to take the object of visible form. That is why that mind-door process is considered as the follower of the indoor process. The mind-door process does not arise due to its specific condition. It arises due to the condition, based on the condition of the indoor process. That is why that types of mind-door process is called the conformational mind-door process and Dadanovataka Manodara Viti. That takes the same object as the indoor process, the preceding one, indoor process. But the difference is, at the moment of indoor process, the object is in its lifespan. So it means the present. So indoor process take the present visible form. But at the moment of mind-door process, which follow to the indoor process, the object's already gone, disappear already. So the mind-door process take the same visible form, but it is the past visible form. So at the moment of indoor process, that is present visible form is the object. And at the moment of conformational mind-door process, the past visible form is the object. So now we understand the first consequent process of the indoor process. Then the process grasping the object as whole. So when we see something and that visible form is not a single materiality. So as the mentality arises in the group, the materiality also arises in the group. So the smallest group consists of 8 materiality. There, the visible form is inside there, even the smallest group of materiality. So that is very small, not enough to accomplish, to show the something by the physical eye. So the group of materiality come to appear. That is, we regard as that is the visual form appear. But although we say that's the group, or that is the group, but it does not mean we can see the concept. So we cannot see the concept. We can see the visual form, which is the ultimate reality, one of the ultimate reality. But not a single visual form can cause the seeing, the unconsciousness. So the group of visible form inside the material, the group of materiality come to appear at the present time. So see by the unconsciousness and taken by the mind of the following, the conformation and mind of process. Then another process, there's also mind of process, take the whole object as a whole. For example, if we see the person, the human beings, so we see him, we see his head, his leg, his body, and his hand, etc. So all parts of the body come to appear. Then we recognize him as a human being. And also, if we see his hand only, so part of the hands, in this way, everything, every visible form, what we see, even the smallest one, is the group of the visible form inside the group of materiality, because they are also still very small. So they come to appear in the group. So second process grasps the object as a whole. So that's called the samudaya kahika in Pali. So that by the support of the consequent process, the recognition come to accomplish. So here, otherwise, if only the unconsciousness arise, no, we cannot recognize and just passed. So by the support of the consequent process of mind thought process, we can recognize what we see. Okay, so the object, the second consequent process grasps the object as whole. Then third one, this also mind thought process, it recognizes the color. So here, object as a whole, then there must be the color. So the color is taken by another process. Now when our mind taken the samudaya, the whole object, at that moment, it cannot recognize the color. So in the following process, mind thought process, the color is taken as it is object, or not salakana. Then the fourth one, the process grasping the entirety. So what to kahika? So to the substance, to touch the substance, to take substance as object, we need another, how to say that, another process. This is not only for the iron doors related to the all five doors process. Then the process of recognizing the entirety. So kahika taken, then recognition again needs another process. And altogether 5 process. So what to kahika and what to sanlakkhana. So kahika taken and sanlakkhana recognition. Then the process of grasping the name. So after seeing the appearance of the human being, and then the object, the color, and the entities come into the mind. Then the name come into the mind again. So this is a human, or this is who. If we see the animal, also by seeing that and the name come into the mind, that is called the grasping the name, nama kahika. Then nama sanlakkhana, recognize the name. So this is the seven consequent processes explained by the Principal Lerisiaro to accomplish the indoor process, including the other process or other physical door process, 5 door process. So here, the Varna Sanlakkhana, you see the Sanlakkhana recognition, that recognize the color. And in number 5, recognize the entirety, the virtue, so entirety of the shape. And this number 7, nama sanlakkhana, the name. So to see, if necessary, to recognize something through any doors, we need the recognition process. If the one of the recognition process arise, then we can know, I see that one, or I hear that sound, like this. That moment, that process is accomplished. Otherwise, if the sanlakkhana does not arise and we just see, but we cannot recognize, and sometimes you see your eye is open, but you think you are seeing, but you cannot recognize and you cannot grasp them to say I see. But you know, that event happen or that process running in your mind, that is the absence of the recognition process. So that is why to accomplish recognition through the seeing, there needs the consequence process of mind door to accomplish, and also to hear and to identify what I heard about that or something, that we need another process, at least any of the recognition process. Sometimes I hear, but I don't know the name. And sometimes I hear, I cannot grasp, I cannot recognize the shape. That's why the recognition or the grasping, the process will be absent. But this is the possibility, the complete set of the consequent process. So this is the explanation of the Lerisiaro. If we study about the cognitive process, we should know how we see, and at the moment, very simple way, and through the eye door, eye consciousness, the process of eye consciousness arise and we see. But actually, we just see, and in order to say, we know by seeing, something. So we see, just, it does not stop there, just seeing. And I see something mean, I know through seeing. I hear something, I know through hearing. So here, hearing performed by the consciousness of 5 doors, but not accomplish the recognition. So to say that I know through something like this. So we need the process of recognition. That is why the consequent process make the accomplishment of the recognition after the arising of each 5 door process. Each 5 door process they need. But it does not mean all 7 always arise. But sometimes the Ottu Kahika absent, or sometimes Nama Kahika absent. See, but we see that the color, and sometimes we see the shape. So that's why the Lerisiaro say only when a recognition process. So not all are necessary. Okay, this is how we recognize the object through the 5 door process. and not only 5-drop process, with the following mind drop process. So, okay, so what we see or what we hear due to the quality of the object, let's classify. So this is called the Chada Visaya Potiyo. So Chada Visaya Potiyo, the set-forth presentation of objects. So this is the number 6 of the 6. Okay. Then the first one is Atimahantam, Atimahanta Aramana. So the very great object. And second one, Mahanta Aramana, great object. So Ati mean the exceeding something, they're especially great. So very great object is Ati Mahanta, and just great object is Mahanta, Mahanta Aramana. Then Parita Aramana is slight object, and Atiparita, so very slight object. So 4 object. And the 5th one is Viputa Aramana, clear object, and Aviputa Aramana, obscure object, not clear. Then here the classification of the great and slight. So which one is great, why, and which one is slight, why, and which one is very great or very slight. As it does not depends on the size of the object or the grossness of the object, does not depend on that. So it refers, the greatness and slightness refers to the pose of the object impact on the consciousness. So impact on the consciousness. So how impact, let's see. When we introduce the process, so we see the past Bhavanga. So if in that process, if the past Bhavanga consists only one time, so appear only one time, it is called the very great, because Bhavanga moment, so Bhavanga moment is not the cognition really cognize the objects. It cannot cognize, that's why this pass. That is, so if the Bhavanga moment is lesser, the cognition process is longer. So if the Bhavanga process is longer, the cognition process is shorter. So that is why when the very great object appear, only one past Bhavanga, then the 5-drop button come to appear. So because it is in short time, it gives rise to the mental process. That is why that's regarded as the very great object. So let's compare the second one, just great object. So very great and great, what is the difference? So if the past Bhavanga in the process, past Bhavanga consists of 2 times or 3 times, so it's more than the first one, first type. So in the very great object, the past Bhavanga, when the process taking the very great object, the past Bhavanga, only one past Bhavanga consists of. And if past Bhavanga more appear 2 or 3 times, that is not very great object, no more very great object. It is regarded as the great object. So now you see the longer Bhavanga and more times of the Bhavanga movement and less time of the cognition process, cognition times, mind movement. So then now understand the slight object. So if the past Bhavanga 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, up to 9 times. So altogether 6 process. So here 2 times and 3 times, 2 process. So 4 times to 9 times, we can say there's 6 process. That is the slight object. Because the object is slight, the time of the past Bhavanga become more and more, a longer time of the Bhavanga and shorter in the cognitive process. Then the number 4, Ati Mahandan, very slight. So very slight. So 10 to 15. So 10 times past Bhavanga. As you know, our duration of the materiality is 7 times of the mind movement. So during the 7 times mind movements, so if the past Bhavanga consists of, we can say the 16 remaining 16 are cognition process. That is the very great object. And if 2 become the 15 cognition mind movement, so still great. And if the past Bhavanga 3 times occurs, the cognition process only 14, still we can regard it that is the great. And you may see the difference between the specific process in the next lesson. Now we just need to identify the object by the mind movement of the Bhavanga, past Bhavanga. And also we can say the mind movement of the cognitive process. So because the past Bhavanga longer, shortened to the cognition process. So here, if the past Bhavanga arise 10 times, only 7 mind movement less for the lifespan of the object and sensitivity, because they have only 17 mind movement lifespan as their lifespan. So only 7 is not enough for some case. That's why that regards as this very slight, starting from this 10 to 15. So if just arise the more than 15, so does not arise any the cognition mind, just the Bhavanga shaken and then go through. So in this way, now we see that taking the very great object 1 process, taking the great object 2 process, taking the slight object 6 process, and taking the very slight object 6 process arise. So altogether 15 mental process we can count. So 15 types of mental process can be, due to the difference of the qualification of the objects. So 5-door process. In each 5-door process, they have the 15 types of consciousness, mental process. So 5-door, 15 multiplied by 5 become the 75. So now we can understand the 75 types of cognitive process in 5 doors. And okay, for example, I'm consciousness. So taking the very great object, if it is arise, it is 1 type. And another 2 types of I'm conscious now, taking the great object of visible form. Then slight object of visible form, very slight object of visible form. And in this way, if we classify the 5-door process, we get the eye-door process 15 and ear-door process 15, etc., and becomes altogether 75 5-door process. Then 1 to 4 objects are related to the 5-door process, and we can say the objects of 5-door process. And the object of 5-door process can be classified according to the qualification that impact on the consciousness, not refers to the size or grossness of the object. Even sometimes, you know, that even the object is very very big in the side, in its side, and sometimes we cannot see clearly. So that called the slight object and very slight object sometimes. It does not depend on the size. Or sometimes it is very hard, and the the sound is very loud, but we could not hear. And at that moment, we can regard it that object is light. Okay, and the remaining two, number 5, Vibhuta, Aramana, Vibhuta, and clear object, and Avibhuta, Aramana. These are the object of the mind thought process, not the object of 5 thought process. So altogether, for the 5 thought process, the object 4, and for the mind thought process, 2 objects. Altogether, we get the six objects. So coming into the venue of the minds, so they become the altogether 6 Visaya-poti. So 6-4 presentation of the objects. Then this classification of the mind thought process, clear or obscure, can distinguish only in case of sense-pure jhana process. That's the process of sense-pure jhana. And what's remain from the sense-pure jhana, so sublime jhana. In case of the process of sublime jhana, there's no difference, the clear or obscure, because if the object is not really clear, the sublime jhana cannot arise. The process of sublime jhana cannot arise. That is why the only object of clear object, the only clear object can be the object of sublime jhana. That's why there's no difference like this. So in case of the process, the object of the process in the sense-pure jhana, or concept of the sense-pure jhana, it can be both clear or obscure, and Vibhuta or Avibhuta. So this is the 6-4 presentation of objects to the doors and to the mind, to give rise. Then, so let's see the 2 types of process: Pancharara Vichi, 5 thought process, Manodara Vichi, mind thought process. Already know. So when the sense object enter the venue of the 5 sense door, so without entering the venue of the 5 sense door, they cannot give rise the consciousness, respective consciousness, and to arise. So here, 5 sense object enter the venue of 5 sense door. At the stage of presence, at the stage of present meaning, they also have the 3 phase, as we have said, the 51 sub moment, and the present moment less the 49. So when the object of the 5 door process come to appear, so enter to the venue of 5 sense door, they can appear in their stage of presence. It means they cannot appear, they cannot enter to the venue of 5 sense door as soon as they arise in the arising moment. Upada, arising moment, they cannot enter. They can enter only at the stage of presence. It means as soon as arise, we cannot see. So at least one pass pawanga, one mind movement pass. That is why for the 5 drop process, that is they must contain at least one mind movement of pass pawanga for the very great object. This is how the 5 sense object enter to the 5 sense door. And for the Manodara Viti, the mind door process, it does not necessary to have the pass pawanga. So let's see the 2 types of mind door process. So the first one is Mesaka Dwara Viti. So the mist door process. As I have mentioned in the consequence consequent processes. 7 processes follow to the 5 doors, can follow to the 5 doors. They are, so the object of these 7 consequent processes does not enter through the mind door. So the object emerges through the physical sense door and bhavanga. So the object at the beginning appear the physical door. For example, when we see the eye door, then continue to the mind door. So the door changes. So in the Mesaka Viti, Mesaka Dwara Viti, the mist door process, the object emerges through the 2 types of doors, the physical door, any of the physical door, sense door, and bhavanga, which is regarded as mind door. This is regarded as the Mesaka Dwara Viti. Mesaka Dwara Viti. So let's see, after the 5 door process has ceased, so the process arrives and then finish and enter to the bhavanga. Then after that, the mind door avoidance start to arise, taking the same object, but it is past according to the time. So taking the same objects, for example, if we see something and then our mind door process, after the eye door process, our mind door process arise, then that mind door process take the same visible form, but it is past. And it come to appear in the mind door. So not separate mind door is the physical door after, just after physical door process, the mind door process arise. So the object, what we see, that does not enter only from the mind door, is enter from the physical door and mind door. So after the 5 door process has seen the past sense object, so past sense object and visible form or sound, etc., come into the range at the mind door bhavanga and sets off many sequence of mind door process. So sometimes 5 or sometimes 6, etc., and up to 7, it can continue to recognize. That consequent process are called the mist door process, mist door process. And another types of mind door process is Sutta Manodwara Viti. Sutta is bare. So bare mind door process, not without any admixture of the sense door, no relationship. There's no relationship with the sense door. So the object appear only in the mind door, only in the mind door. You close eye and not paying attention to any sense organ, and the object appear into your mind, appear in your mind. That is the Sutta Manodhara Viti, bare mind door process. And now we need to understand, before we continue the study of the process, and we need to classify the how many types of the process can be. So 2 types, Panchadwara and Manodwara. In the Manodwara also Misaka Viti and Sutta Manodwara Viti. So Misaka Viti, the object come into the mind through the starting from this 5 sense physical door. And for the Sutta Manodhara Viti, the object come into the mind through the bhavanga, the Manodhara alone. And okay, for the last one, the Sutta Manodhara Viti, the bare mind door process also can be classified according to their object and their javana, etc. They can classify. It also can be classified into different parts. The first one is the limited javana viti. So limited is prita. Prita javana viti. The prita javana refers to the sense pure javana. So the process of sense pure javana. So here we should put the javana in. So the process of sense-peer jhana, that is called the limited jhana viti. And the second one is apana jhana viti. So the process of absorption jhana, So jhana viti and mega viti all are regarded as the apana jhana. So according to the jhana, we can divide it into two. One is the process of sense-peer jhana. The other is the process of the sublime or absorption jhana, mahakata and lokuttara. Then for the apana jhana also, the initial attainment jhana. So if meditator attain the jhana at the very first time, that is called the adhikamika jhana viti. So the attainment, the process will become a different form with a different mind movement. So the second one, initial attainment of jhana. Oh, sorry, this is not initial. The attainment of jhana. It should be we should remove the initial. So the attainment of jhana, that is called the jhana samapatti viti. So initial attainment and the attainment difference. So the first one is adhikamika, the initial attainment, the very first time get, and jhana samapatti, entering to the jhana again after the attainment. Then mekha viti, the process of supramundane attainment. The process of supramundane attainment is called the mekha viti. And so in mekha viti, they are not only mekha, the phala also considered, but taking the name of the mekha, we call the mekha viti. But later, the noble person, after the attainment of the any stage of mekha path consciousness, and then he entered to the phala again. So at that moment, there is no path consciousness concept of in that process. So only the phala consciousness continue. That is why that process is called the phala samapatti viti, the process of supramundane attainments. Then also for the anagami and arahant, after the attainment of the jhana, and in combination of the true power, they can attain the process of supramundane. Sorry, here also the process of the so nirodha here, nirodha samapatti, entering to the after the process, the chitta and chittasika 6. So the succession, it is called the attainment of succession, not only the supramundane. This is called the attainment of the succession. That is nirodha samapatti. That also will come in another type. And also the maranasana viti, near that moment, how the mental process arises. So we will study different types of the consciousness according to their process, their way of process. So this is the process we are going to study. So here we need to change the process of attainment of succession. So then here the word initial should be removed. Okay. Then now I'd like to introduce, before we continue, to support further lesson. So this is the procedure of sense-peer jhana. So sense-peer jhana usually arise 7 or 6 times. This is the general rule, and generally it happens 7 times. So at the moment of jhana in every sense-peer process. And when the object is extremely weak, so not related to the slight or very slight. So here, even the jhana arise, it can be 6 times. So this not generally only 7 times arise. And near that moment, the mind becomes weak. And then at that time of the dying, the process, the jhana, in that process, jhana run for 5 times. Then when the Buddha performed the twin miracle, like this is the special occasion. At the moment, because the procedure is very fast, so very fast, in the Buddha is mental process, Shakespeare Jhavana run 4 times or 5 times. This is not near that moment. So near that moment related to every individual. But here, this 4 and 5 times of the twin miracle, performance of the twin miracle is related to refers to the Buddha, so to the exalted one. The Buddha, before he went to Taodensa realm to preach the Abhidhamma teaching, and he performed the twin miracle performance. At that moment, because due to the creation of the performance is very wonderful and very fast, needs to have the very powerful mind movement. So the Jhavana just occurs 4 or 5 times to shift to the next process. Then, so regarding the Apana Jhavana, so absorption and supramandate. The sublime Jhavana of the absorption run only 1 time. So because the first time cognitive process, so Adhikamika Viti, the Jhavana moment is only 1 moment, just 1 time. This is Adhikamika. And also the direct knowledge, we already introduced this direct knowledge, whether it can be it can be wholesome and unwholesome. So the direct knowledge Abhinya, that Abhinya Jhavana also occurs only 1 time and accomplish it is text to perform. And so 1 time is enough. So the sublime Jhavana in very first moment, 1 time, and direct knowledge 1 time. And the 4 paths Jhavana, so paths, Sādhabhati, Mega, etc., when they arise only 1 time and endure only 1 mind moment and just finish, eradicating their respective defilement, they never repeat it. After them, the path Jhavana and 2 moments of phala, 2 or 3 moments of phala follow to the path consciousness moment. And we will see clearly in their respective mental process. This is just introduction about the Jhavana. And at the time of the attainment of cessation, here this is called the Nirodha Samapatti. At the time of the attainment of cessation, so according to the process, by seeing this explanation, we understand how the attainment of how the mental process arises for the attainment of cessation during the life. So the 4th immaterial Jhavana, wholesome process for the Anagami and functional process for the Arahat. And they arise 2 times. Then the context cessation means the 6, they completely stop the mind and mental fetters at the specific moment. Then after that moment of the cessation, again, arise the mentality, consciousness and mental fetter arise again. So when restart, the fruition chitta, related fruition chitta of non-returning of the arhatship arise for a single occasion. After that, continue another time. So in this way, we understand how the anagami and arhat enter to the jhana, and then we can point out the process happen in this way. Then in the cognitive process of attainment, the plus samapatti or jhana samapatti, so the jhavana moment can run many times, countless times. So 5 minutes, even in the 5 minutes, we cannot count how many times of jhavana and how many times of the fruition arise. And sometimes they can continue for the 7 days in this the human realms. Okay, so as the final part of this lesson, I need to introduce another one, that is the correlation in absorption. So before the absorption arises, there must be the wholesome sense-sphere jhana or functional sense-sphere jhana arise. After that, the absorption jhana arise. So this is the sequence in the process of the absorption attainment. There, after the jhana, sense-sphere jhana accompanied by joy, the absorption jhana of the joyful feeling. So absorption jhana accompanied by joy. So the two jhana, although they are different in the sphere, sense sphere and the prime material sphere or immaterial sphere, although they have the different sphere, but they must have the similar feeling. So after the jhana accompanied by joy, the absorption accompanied by joy, and after jhana accompanied by equanimity, the absorption accompanied by equanimity. This is how we make the agreement. Not we make that, we understand. So the naturally arising. Okay, so immediately after the wholesome jhana, wholesome sense-sphere jhana, the absorption, wholesome absorption and the three lower fusion. So if we attain the jhana, so wholesome, after wholesome jhana, the wholesome absorption. If we attain the mega phala, after wholesome jhana, the lower fruit consciousness can arise. And after the functional jhana, the absorption occurs through the functional jhana. So functional to functional. And the arahatship. So the fruit of arahatship, not the fruit of the lower person. So the last one. Okay, now we already introduced about the consciousness and the process and also the information we need to learn initially before we study the cognitive process. Okay, so now I'm going to stop here, my explanation, and let's continue to the Q&A session.
Dear Bhante, in this simile of the mango, may I know if my understanding is correct? When a man is awakened by the sound, ear door process will arise, followed by mind door process. He opens his eyes and looks at the mango, eye door process will arise, followed by mind door process. He stretches out his hand to take it, body door process will arise, followed by respective mind door process. He squeezes it, body door process. He smells it, nose door process. He eats it, tongue door process. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. For this question, the whole simile of the mango refers to the only process of the any of five sense door, not related to the mind dogs. So because after he went back to the sleeping, so it refers to the bhavanga process arise again. So after that, the mind dog process occur. So that's why the whole simile of the mango refers to any of a single physical, the process of physical door, not related to any mind door.
Dear Bhante, after an eye door process, how many times this consequent process will arise? One, from the first conformational mind door process up to the seventh, recognizing the name process. Each process will happen only one time or many times. And then these processes 1 to 7 also consist of one mind averting moment plus 7 javanas. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so in the consequent process, we cannot say definitely how many consequent process can arise in the conformational mind door process. So that each process the separate mind door process. So for the conformational mind dot process, the one mind dot abutting and 7 jhana, sometimes registration, sometimes no registration, but especially here, the object is 5 dot present, 5 dot, 5 since object, because it follows to the 5 dot process. So the registration also must be there. So in this way, each process of the 7 consequent process can consist of the mind dot abutting, then 7 times of jhana and 2 times of registration. Then after that bhavanga arise, then this number 2, the process of grasping as the whole. At the moment also, the mind dot, after some times of bhavanga, the abutting mind dot abutting start again and the process run. And only the object that taking the object is different in the different. The first one just follow and take the whatever the former process, former physical process, take. Just the difference is the present and past. At the moment of the process of physical door, that is present, the object is present, and the number 1, the conformational process, mind dot process, the object is a past. And if the following, the previous one is ein dot process, the conformational mind dot process will take the visible form, same as the ein dot. If the former one is ear dot process, the conformational mind dot also take the sound as it is object, but it is past to have the similar object. So it does not mention in the books of the Lady Seattle about that how many times. It means the conformational mind dot process 1 time or 2 times, or does not mention. But usually in the process it will continue. But sometimes that it can happen, it can stop. Only the conformational process just arise and then stop. But at that moment we don't recognize the object. We just see. Although that we see the many things in front of our range of the seeing. We see many things, but we don't recognize. Like this, at that time, it means the recognitional process did not arise due to that the absence of the recognitional of process. We could not recognize, but we see that. Then in this way, sometimes we recognize the color only, not the shape, and we recognize the shape and sometimes not the name. In this way, at that time, the related process, the consequence process will be absent. So this 7 process are mentioned to complete the full recognition.
Dear Bhante, do the classification of great and slight objects also depend on person's preferences and understanding? Could Bhante please give us some examples on very great objects and great objects? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
No, the first one, the classification of great and slight does not depend on the person's preference. So how the way we can classify the object as great or slight is by seeing the moment of the mind moment in the process. If the process is longer, the cognition process is longer, and only the one moment of the past bhavanga consists of that. The cognition process, we can regard the process, the object is very great, etc. In this way, so we cannot identify the object as according to the preference or the understanding. You know that sometimes when we see something, the great object, now we see the screen and then we can recognize. So there in that process, some process consists of the great object, and sometimes there, if our mind is going around and then coming back here, and there in that at that moment also some process arising to take the clear object of the screen and then what happened, what appear. So there are also the gray object, slide object. We can say the process, many process can pass through, taking the gray slide in the different way, because our mind cannot, in the ordinary things, we know that continuously I'm seeing, but actually, and when we hear, we don't see. When we get the smell, we don't see. So many events come into the mind, and the many types of process are running in interval of our seeing. That is why after the discovery of the other process, and when we come again to the seeing, so many process, different quality can pass through. So we can say the great, very great slide. Then now, due to the great object, we can see, we can identify by the jhana, because the slide object, there's no jhana, and very slight object, there's no jhana in this way.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Next question. Dear Bhante, for a very great object, there will be only one Pasbhavanga and 16 cognitive process. What are the mind moments included in these 16 moments? For a very slight objects, there will be 10 to 15 times Pasbhavanga. What are the remaining mind moments? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, the answer of this question will be explained in the next lesson. So in next lesson, we will explain in slide by slide. All information will include to answer this question. Okay.
Bhante, in the slide of procedure of sense sphere jhavana of twin miracles, what does reviewing consciousness means, and which category of chittas it belongs to? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, that reviewing consciousness is to review the performance. It is according to the nature of the consciousness, as a part of the nature of the consciousness, that consciousness review after the making performance, to produce the performance, the Buddha's mind run inside the Buddha's mental process, and very powerful mental process. So because this emphasize the reviewing consciousness, so the performance is produced by the absorption power of the absorption. So the Buddha performed that miracle, that is the Adivida. So to perform that, the Buddha entered to the fifth jhana, absorption fifth jhana, and entered to that fifth jhana and make the determination to perform what types of performance. And due to that determination and the power of the fifth functional jhana, so absorption jhana, the performance come to appear. After that, the pachavakkhana, so the process of pachavakkhana, that is called the sense sphere jhana. So that sense sphere jhana has very, the very short moment to perform another performance, because it is very rushed. So that the Buddha make the very wonderful, unimaginable performance. So the Buddha need to shorten the times. So by the power of that determination, strong determination, the reviewing becomes shortened. The times of reviewing shortened. So that reviewing is reviewed on the absorption and the performance. So that is called the pachavakkhana jhana, pachavakkhana viti.
On presentation of object, slight and very slight objects that there are 12 types of processes, why the emphasis on such cognitive processes since they are weak and the mind does not register? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so for the 12 types, so the mind, because by the absence of the jhana, and we can see the mind does not experience or fully experience the taste of the objects. But there at that moment in the 12 process of the 12 types, and then the mental process, the mind movements are different from the bhavanga, which is originally continuing in the life. So to see the bhavanga and also different each types, we need to identify as a cognitive process, because also they are recognized as the cognitive process because they arise, that process or that mind moment arise due to the striking of the object on the sensitivity or the material sensitive materiality. So that also cognitive process, because it is different from the, how to say there, like the bhavanga. At the moment of bhavanga, although it aware to the specific object or karma or karma nimitta or gati nimitta, it is very common object. So here, the consciousness, the mind moments are arising in that process because of the striking. So different events and different moments, and also they recognize, although they cannot enjoy. The example is given, the cook of the king. So the cook of the king cook and taste, but cannot enjoy the full taste of the food. But only the king enjoying the full taste of the food. But at the moment of jhana, it is similar to the king, so fully enjoyment. But the other moment similar compared to the cook, although the cook does not enjoy the full taste of the cook, the curry, he could taste for some instant. Similarly, the mind movement of the 12 types of process, as for the slide and very slide, and by the absence of the jhana, although they cannot experience the full taste of the object, but they taste in some instant. That is why they are regarded as the cognitive process. Okay.
Pandami Sayadaw, how can we practice paticca samuppada patana relations? Can do it by direct vipassana? Thanks, Sayadaw. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
This question is related to the meditation teacher. So better to ask the meditation teacher. It is not easy way to say in short time. So step-by-step explanation is needed. So I'd like to suggest to ask your specific meditation teacher and how to practice. Okay, for this question, we are not going to discuss, and because this can misunderstand many things if we make it shorten. So it needs the fully understanding in the process of meditation.
Bante, we have one question from the chat. Question 8. Can Sayadaw explain again the change over from sense door to mind door? That is the conformational mind door process. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, so the conformational, etc., the 7 consequent process are just the following process of the 5 physical door, the 5 process of physical door. Only when the the process of 5 physical door, ein door process, etc., arise, and after that finish. So at the moment, the conformational mind door process arise. So we can say that is just a mind door process, but it what is the relationship between the former Indo process and the following, the conformation and Mindo process is they are taking the same object. So at the moment of the Indo process, all the mind movements of the Indo process take the present behavior form as its object. Then after that, after the second registration, so the Bowenga come, and because the duration of the object is finished, so Bowenga come to appear, and after some times of the Bowenga to recognize that behavior form, what we see, the mind dot process arise. So mind dot averting 7 times of Jawana and registration arise. All mind movement in that conformational mind dot process, all mind movement take the object of the same behavior form with the previous process of Indo process. Then at that time, it does not recognize, even the Mindo process arise, it does not recognize, especially just recognize the behavior form as behavior form. Then in order to identify something, to grasp the whole thing, another process needs the same way. So after some Bowenga, after the conformational mind process, the some Bowenga arise, some Bowenga moment arise, then again mind aversion starts, and 7 Jawana registration, and take the whole. So the whole mean the groove of the material lattice consisting of the behavior form. That process take again. In this way, it continue to recognize the color or the shape of name of like this. So this is the way how we recognize. And if the object of the mind process appear not related to the any physical door, we recognize that is Sutta Manodharaviti, not Mr. One. So here the change is like this. So mental process is continuing. So at that time, so this is not intentionally changing. They after the seeing consciousness arise and the mind process for the consequence process arise to accomplish the recognition. If we cannot classify according to the teaching of Abhidhamma teaching, we will not know. We will know that we see, and in this way we see or we hear like this. But by the explanation of the Abhidhamma teaching, we understand the Indo process. The unconsciousness just see, cannot recognize about the objects. Then after arising the some mind process, we can recognize. This is how what we can learn from the Abhidhamma teaching in detail, because it is very, the very subtle text, subtle object to see about them, the process. So we ourselves, it's not easy, but if you are practicing the meditation with the very strong concentration and wisdom, and you may know the process is running in this way. Just seeing at the moment and take some time, and because by the power of the concentration and wisdom, your mind is powerful to catch up in the very fast process. So now at that time, you may recognize the difference. Then now I see and now I recognize, but it is not easy.
Good morning, Sayadaw. Pandami Sayadaw. Please, Sayadaw, advise what the process arise when I wake up from sleeping. I feel vibration on the heart base first. After that, the sixth door consciousness arise. Is it right? With sincerely, Nana Tamiko.
Okay, in this case, we can consider about that the vibration on the heart base, that sometimes, the vibration inside can feel, they can feel by the body consciousness. So because it's arise inside, there inside also the bodily sensation is spreading. So due to that bodily sensation, through the bodily sensation, we can know the inside, the tangible objects are touching inside. So if I cannot identify exactly, that I just can guess what can happen, possibility. So the vibration, if you feel that vibration, then you think I hear. Sometimes that the vibration inside is not easy to hear, but easy to feel. That's why I think you feel the vibration first. Then maybe after waking by that consciousness, and again you hear. Maybe you hear, but it's also sometimes not easy to hear by the physical ear, and maybe later it can possible. But at the beginning, the consciousness of the body door consciousness arise, then mind door consciousness follow, and later the ear door consciousness also arise, and then mind door consciousness also follow in this way, and then you wake up from your sleeping.
Question 10, follow-up question. So if there is no registration in the cognitive process, will there be consequent processes? Thank you.
Okay, so for this question, the word registration is in Pali dararamana. So here in English translation, it seems very important, but in the Pali understanding, it is not really important. It is just the following movement of the javana. So registration is not like you register to something else, but I don't know which English word is more suitable than this registration, and I just follow the former scholar. And actually, my understanding is the registration is not really important. That just because the duration of the object is remaining after the javana, that's why it makes the registration. So not really important. The example is given if the ship is going the stream, going up the stream, the water follow. Normally water is going down to the stream, but if the ship is going up, the ship following the ship, some water in some moment that follow to the ship. In the same way, by the power of the javana, javana is translated as the impulsion or the very, very powerful. And it run. That is why the registration is just the following. It means the registration moment is not really important. So by the absence of registration, it doesn't matter. But here in this, related to this question, we can say that by the absence of the javana, there can be the consequent process. That is interesting. So the javana is more important than registration. So let's talk about the absence of the javana. Is it possible to be the consequent process? So the book does not mention, but I just want to discuss about that. My understanding, if the object is very slight and very slight, so no javana and no registration. So at that time, because there's no javana, so we cannot recognize clearly. That is why the consequent process also cannot happen. This is my understanding. But the book and does not mention so. I have no reference for that assumption. So I just think it is the work of the consequent process are to identify and to make clear in the mind, to capture the object. So even the slide, the object is slide and very slide, and even the jhana is absent, there may not be any function to perform by the consequent process.
Dear Bhante, thank you very much for your teachings today. May Bhante lead us in making aspirations and sharing of merits, please.
Let's make aspiration and let's share our merit to all beings. Please repeat after me. Imina punya kamena.
Imina punya kamena.
Mami bala samagamo.
Mami bala samagamo.
Satam samagamo hodu.
Satam samagamo hotu.
Yava nibbana padiya.
Yava nibbana patiya.
Idame punyam.
Idame punyam.
Asavakaya vaham hodu.
Asavakaya vaham hotu.
Idame punyam.
Idame punyam.
Nibbana sapajayo hodu.
Nibbana sapachayo hotu.
Mama punya bhagam.
Mama punya bhagam.
Sabba satanam bhajimi.
Sabba satanam bhajimi.
Te sabbe.
Te sabbe.
Me samam.
Me samam.
Punya bhagam labantu.
Punya bhagam labantu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante, and everyone for your time and participation. Till we meet again next Sunday, may all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.